What if I told you that a battle-hardened Navy SEAL came to Clearwater searching for peace, but instead walked straight into a war that should have ended his life? What if his only partner was a wounded K-9 who refused to leave his side, and the river that once carried danger became the place where a miracle was born? This is the story of how Logan, a man who had lost everything, and Valor, a dog who had survived the impossible, stood against an entire criminal syndicate, and still found a way to bring hope back to an entire town, and to themselves. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from. This is a story you won't forget. The evening air settled over Clearwater River like a velvet shroud, thick with the scent of pine, silt, and the faint metallic taste of a coming storm. Summer dusk always felt alive here, cicadas humming their chorus, the river murmuring its endless passage like a creature that never slept. Logan stood on the back porch of the small wooden cabin he now called home, watching the fading amber light ripple across the water. After leaving the Navy, he had imagined peace would come easily, but peace, he discovered, was not something the world handed him. It was something he had to wrestle for, again and again, even in the quiet places. Logan, at 33, still carried the unmistakable presence of a man forged in disciplined chaos. He was tall, just under 6'2", with broad shoulders sculpted from years of combat conditioning. His jawline was sharp beneath a few days of stubble, a habit he hadn't yet broken from his service days. His dark brown hair was kept short, neat, and slightly tousled by the river breeze. His skin, tanned from countless deployments under unforgiving suns, held faint, healed scars, none disfiguring, but each whispering a story he no longer told. His deep-set steel-gray eyes reflected a strange combination of exhaustion and vigilance, like someone who had seen too much but still hoped for reasons to fight for something good. At his feet, Valor lay in a relaxed sprawl, though relaxed for a K-9 like him was still alert. Valor was a 4-year-old German shepherd, trained for Navy SEAL operations, his frame powerful, lean, and disciplined. His sable coat glimmered with dark undertones when the light hit. Ace and his intelligent amber eyes tracked every sound. He had followed Logan through dust storms, night raids, freezing oceans, and silent recon missions. Even now, retired but not forgotten, he moved with purpose, always ready to shield Logan from a threat, even one neither of them could yet see. Life here had been simple, or at least simpler. Logan spent his mornings repairing the old cabin, chopping wood, training Valor, or jogging along the riverbank trails. His afternoons were often quiet, cooking meals or reading whatever books Jonas, his old army acquaintance from the nearby town, recommended. Logan didn't talk much, but people around Clearwater respected him. They sensed something in him. A man who kept his promises, who didn't raise his voice, who walked with the calm confidence of someone who had rescued others from burning debris or pulled friends from raging surf under gunfire. He believed this place might finally allow him to breathe, but that illusion was about to shatter. As twilight deepened, Valor's ears suddenly shot up. His body stiffened. A growl rumbled from his chest, a deep, instinctive warning. Logan froze for a fraction of a second, then moved with the smooth precision of a trained operator. His hand reached for the flashlight clipped to his belt, though he didn't turn it on. His senses sharpened. "What is it, buddy?" he whispered. Valor rose, hackles lifting, body angled toward the edge of the property, where the trees cast thick shadowed silhouettes. Logan scanned the darkness, muscles coiled. Then he saw movement. Not the movement of an animal, too coordinated, too practiced. 3 figures slipped through the tree line, their silhouettes stark against the dim glow of the river. They moved quietly, deliberately, wearing dark hooded jackets. One held something metallic, hard to see clearly, but Logan's instincts labeled it as a weapon before his eyes confirmed it. The trespassers didn't expect to be seen. They certainly didn't expect what happened next. Valor growled louder. One of the men hissed, "Shut that dog up!" Another replied, "Just grab it. The boss said the dog has to go." Logan's blood ran cold. The dog has to go. Everything inside him snapped into focus. Like a bullet released from a chamber, Logan sprinted forward, covering distance in seconds. "Hey!" he barked, his voice sharp, commanding, military. The men jerked in surprise. One raised a bat and swung at Valor. Logan didn't think He reacted. He intercepted the swing with his forearm, absorbing the blow through muscle and adrenaline. Pain shot up his arm, but he used the momentum, twisting the man's wrist and sending the bat flying into the bushes. A second attacker lunged with a knife. Logan kicked him square in the ribs, forcing the air out of his lungs. Valor leaped, clamping onto the man's leg, dragging him backward into the dirt. The third attacker hesitated, wide-eyed. Logan grabbed the front of his jacket, yanked him forward, and slammed him into the ground with a controlled takedown. "Who sent you?" Logan demanded, voice low and dangerous. The man choked out, We don't want trouble." "You brought trouble," Logan snapped. Before Logan could press further, the three men scrambled to their feet, stumbling away in panic, disappearing between the trees. Logan let them go. He wasn't going to kill anyone tonight, but he would find out who they were. Valor whimpered softly. Logan turned to him immediately. "Valor, sit. Let me check." He knelt and examined the shepherd's side. Fresh blood, a shallow cut. Not deep, but dangerous if untreated. Logan's jaw clenched. Someone had stabbed his dog, his partner, his brother in arms. He scooped Valor into his arms, something he hadn't done since Valor was a pup, and darted inside the cabin. Within minutes, he grabbed his truck keys and sped down the winding dirt road toward Clearwater Township. The veterinary clinic lights glowed like a beacon in the night. Dr. Maria Lopez rushed outside the moment she heard the truck skid to a stop. She was petite, night around 5'4", with long chestnut brown hair pulled into a messy ponytail. Her warm bronze skin and expressive dark eyes radiated calm professionalism. But tonight, they carried a sharp concern. "Logan? What happened?" she gasped. "Ambush. They cut him," Logan said through clenched teeth. Maria didn't waste a second. "Bring him in." Inside, she laid Valor on the metal table, hands working with practiced precision. As she cleaned the wound, she glanced at Logan. "This wasn't from an accident. This was deliberate." "I know," Logan said, voice tight. She paused, meeting his eyes. "Logan, something's happening around here. People have been getting threats, landowners near the river, families pressured to move, houses vandalized, and I've heard whispers about a group calling themselves River Syndicate." Logan frowned. "Oh, what do they want?" Maria swallowed. "Land, access, control of the river routes." "And what happens to people who refuse?" Her expression darkened. "They have accidents or disappear." Logan felt heat rising in his chest, not panic, not fear, but the deep, dangerous anger he thought he'd buried when he left the Navy. "They came to my home tonight." Maria's eyes widened. "They attacked you?" "No," Logan said, gaze dropping to Valor. "They attacked him." Maria's voice softened. "Then they've made a mistake." Logan looked at her sharply. She held his gaze, unwavering. "Because they don't know who you are." He didn't answer, but something in his posture changed, a silent vow forming. After suturing Valor's wound, she placed a reassuring hand on Logan's arm. "Just be careful. This isn't a normal gang. This is something organized. Dangerous. I've dealt with dangerous before." "I know," she whispered, "but you're not alone this time." Shadowed memories flickered behind Logan's eyes. Nights spent in sandstorms, missions gone wrong, the crushing silence after losing teammates. But now he felt something else overlaying the old weight. Responsibility. Someone had tried to harm Valor. Someone wanted Clearwater. Someone thought they could intimidate him. They were wrong. He lifted Valor gently, cradling the big dog against his chest. "Thanks, Maria." "Call me if anything changes," she said. "Please." He nodded. As Logan stepped out into the cool night, the river breeze brushed against his skin, but the peaceful sounds he had grown used to now felt poisoned. Someone had awakened a part of him he rarely let surface, a protector, a fighter, and a man who did not back down. Valor licked his chin. "We're in it now, buddy," Logan murmured, "but we're going to finish it." The Clearwater River murmured in the dark, restless as if echoing a warning. The storm is only beginning. The following days passed beneath an uneasy sky, the air thick with the kind of tension only someone like Logan could truly sense. Clearwater River looked calm, deceptively so, gliding past his cabin with its familiar whispering current. But something underneath that surface felt disturbed, as if the river itself carried secrets heavy enough to drown a man. Logan walked its banks each morning, Valor trotting at his side, with a gait that grew steadier by the day. The dog's wound had begun to heal, and though Maria had instructed strict rest, Valor's instincts fought against staying still. His amber eyes were once again sharp, tracking every rustle in the brush, every shift in the wind. Logan understood. Dogs like Valor didn't know how to stop being warriors. Neither did he. He stood at the water's edge, hands resting lightly on his hips, at his broad shoulders rising and falling with a slow, contemplative breath. The bruises from the ambush still ached beneath his shirt, though he barely noticed. Pain meant little to a man who had lived through worse. What did command his attention was the memory of those men, their coordinated movements, their whispered orders, the confidence they carried even when retreating. They had not acted alone. They belonged to something larger, something organized, something that believed it owned this land. Logan crouched and dipped his fingers into the river. The water was cold, clear, and deceptively gentle. "What are they moving through you?" he murmured. Valor pressed his head against Logan's shoulder, as if urging him to follow the question further. He would. Logan spent the next 2 days asking quiet questions around Clearwater Township, always careful not to attract the wrong kind of attention. People spoke with guarded fear, voices lowering when he mentioned trouble along the river. One elderly woman told him her nephew had vanished after refusing to sell his riverside repair shop. A fisherman whispered that unmarked boats traveled the river at night without running lights. A store clerk mentioned seeing unfamiliar men surveying farmland with clipboards and tattoos they tried to hide under their sleeves. Finally, on the 3rd day, Logan visited the town's only marina, a small, weather-beaten pier where a dozen boats bobbed lazily against their ropes. He wasn't looking for boats. He was looking for a man. Jonas Whitaker. Jonas was a 68-year-old retired Army riverboat engineer. He had a reputation for 2 things: knowing everything that happened on Clearwater and trusting almost no one. Logan spotted him sitting on a crate near the end of the dock, long legs stretched out, fingers working on a thick rope with the absent-minded ease of someone who'd spent a lifetime tying knots. Jonas had a rugged, weathered appearance, tall and wiry, with a frame still surprisingly strong. His face was carved with deep lines, more life experience than age, and his beard, a messy combination of white and gray, grew thick around his jaw. His eyes, pale blue and sharp, held that unmistakable look of a man who had learned many things the hard way and forgotten none of them. Logan approached quietly, but not timidly. Jonas didn't appreciate timidity. "You're Jonas Whitaker," Logan said. Jonas grunted without looking up. "Depends who's asking." "Logan," he answered, "Marine Special Operations." Jonas paused. Oh, then smirked. "I know that haircut. Navy SEAL." "Former," Logan corrected. "Still counts." Jonas tossed the rope aside and stood. His full height put him nearly eye level with Logan, though his shoulders had the slightest dignified hunch from age. "What do you want with me?" "I heard you used to run boats along the river," Logan said. "I used to do a lot of things. The river isn't what it was." Jonas's gaze drifted toward the shimmering surface. "Not since they came." Logan remained silent, letting him lead. Jonas continued. "Rivers Syndicate. That's what they call themselves. They started with poaching, illegal net runs, then drugs, then weapons. They take land when they want it, make people disappear if they resist." His voice thickened with anger. "Took my boat. Burned it right there." He pointed to a charred patch of old dock boards. "Middle of the night, no warning. Sheriff called it an accident. I called it what it was." "Targeting," Logan said quietly. Jonas's eyes hardened. "And now they've targeted you." "They came after my dog first." Jonas's jaw flexed. "Then you're deeper in than you think." "Which is why I'm here," Logan said. "I need to know what you know." Jonas studied him carefully, weighing the truth in Logan's expression, the strength in his posture. After several seconds, he jerked his chin toward a small shack near the pier. "Come on, I'll show you." Inside, the shack was cluttered, maps pinned to walls, stacks of notebooks, an old fishing vest hanging from a rusty nail. Jonas rifled through a drawer and pulled out a thick, worn binder. "Mapo, everything I've gathered in the last 3 years," he said. "Boat routes, photos, intercepted schedules. The syndicate runs shipments every few nights, drugs mostly, maybe guns. They favor the tributaries, less law enforcement presence. Logan flipped through the binder. Grainy night photos showed unmarked boats, men wearing masks, crates being transferred between vessels. One picture in particular caught Logan's attention, a long cargo boat slipping past an abandoned shipyard. He tapped the image. This location. Briarfield Shipyard, Jonas said. Shut down years ago. Now syndicate property, though not legally. That's one of their main route points. They use it as a staging ground. Logan felt something tighten in his chest. Anger, yes, but also something else. Clarity. He understood enemy networks. He understood hidden routes, smuggling patterns, covert operations. This syndicate was not the first organized group he'd faced. People around here, Jonas continued, they're scared. Anyone who pushes back gets punished. They carve fear into this river like it's a damn signature. Logan closed the binder. So we erase theirs. Jonas raised an eyebrow. You planning on taking them down yourself? I'm planning, Logan said slowly, to make them regret touching this river, or my dog. Jonas studied him again, then nodded. You're not wrong for wanting that, but you'll need proof, hard evidence, enough to bring the feds down on them. And if you're serious, truly serious, then I'm with you. Logan offered a hand. Jonas took it firmly. Let's get to work then, Jonas said. Outside, Valor stood alert, tail wagging faintly as he watched the two men exit. Jonas eyed the shepherd with a surprising softness. He any good? Jonas asked. The best there is, Logan replied. Good, Jonas grinned. You'll need him. Over the next few days, they created something resembling a task force. Quiet, hidden, meticulous. Jonas showed Logan hidden paths along the river, lookout points he'd used during his old fishing days, and traps the syndicate had placed to detect surveillance. Logan, in turn, shared tactics learned from countless missions abroad. How to track unmarked movement in water, how to calculate timing from wake patterns, how to detect hidden cargo based on boat buoyancy. During these long hours, Valor grew stronger. His wound closed, and his energy returned with renewed fire. Logan trained him again. Hand signals, stealth movements, defensive postures. Valor responded with precision, yet his instincts sharp as ever. Maria visited once, bringing medical supplies and a warm smile. She looked relieved seeing Valor's progress and surprised at the small war room forming in Logan's cabin. You're building something dangerous, she murmured. I'm building something necessary, Logan replied. She touched his arm lightly. Just don't lose yourself in the fight. He held her gaze. I won't. Night approached again, casting shadows across Clearwater. But the shadows no longer frightened Logan. They prepared him. And this time, he wasn't the one being hunted. He was hunting back. The storm arrived without warning, one of those violent, churning tempests that seemed to rise straight out of the river's darkest memories. Rain lashed against the cabin roof in relentless sheets, wind howling through the pines like a wild animal hunting for an opening. The sky burned intermittently with white lightning, each flash exposing the forest in sharp, terrifying detail before plunging it into blackness again. It was the kind of night that kept most people indoors, but Logan knew better. Nights like this were perfect for predators who didn't want to be seen. He moved through the cabin with methodical precision, reinforcing barricades he and Jonas had set up earlier. Logan's movements were smooth but tense, his tall, muscular frame coiled with controlled readiness. His dark hair had grown slightly since arriving at Clearwater, and now damp from the storm and clinging to his forehead. His steel-gray eyes reflected flickers of lightning as he checked the ammunition in his non-lethal rounds, rubber slugs and beanbag loads. Killing wasn't the plan. Not yet. Jonas was in the living room, flashlight between his teeth, nailing an additional wooden plank across the window frame. Sweat rolled down the deep creases along his forehead despite the cold air. His weathered hands, thick-knuckled, scarred from decades of hard work, moved with the stubborn determination of a man who had lost too much to run now. His beard shimmered with streaks of gray whenever lightning lit the room. You think they'll come tonight? Jonas muttered, sliding the final nail into place. They'll come, Logan said. Storm makes good cover. And they know you're digging, Jonas added grimly. Logan tightened the strap of the tactical vest across his chest. That too, Valor stood near the door, rigid, ears pricked forward, his body already shifting into combat readiness. The shepherd's coat bristled with tension, and his amber eyes tracked every creak, every shift in the wind. Logan knelt beside him, checking the small protective vest Maria had insisted he wear. "You stay close," Logan whispered. Valor pressed his forehead against Logan's arm, a silent vow of solidarity. The storm rumbled overhead like distant cannon fire. Then Valor growled, low, dangerous, instinctive. Jonas froze. "That's not wind!" Logan moved to the nearest window and peeled back a sliver of curtain. His breath tightened. Silhouettes. Dozens. Moving through the tree line. He counted at least 12, maybe 14. Shapes too large to be animals. Too deliberate to be lost travelers. They fanned out across the property with coordinated precision. Some carried rifles wrapped in plastic to shield them from the rain. Others held bats, pipes, and heavy flashlights. They advanced toward the cabin like shadows carried by the wind. "They brought an army," Jonas whispered. Logan stepped away from the window, voice steady. "Positions." Jonas nodded and took his place behind the kitchen counter, gripping a reinforced wooden staff he'd fashioned earlier. Logan positioned himself behind the overturned dining table they had propped up as a barrier, and Valor. Valor crouched beside Logan, head low, body trembling, not from fear, but anticipation. Lightning struck, illuminating the forest with a blinding flash. The first attacker reached the front porch. A loud crash echoed as something heavy slammed against the front door. "Open up!" a voice shouted, thick with arrogance. "We know you're in there," Jonas muttered. "Hell, this is worse than Afghanistan in monsoon season." The door shuddered under another hit, then another. Logan steadied his shotgun. "Wait!" One more strike. The wooden frame cracked. "Now!" Logan whispered. The door burst inward. Two men lunged inside with a battering ram, slipping on the wet floor. Logan rose and fired a rubber slug round at the first man's chest. The impact threw him backward into the wall with a groan. The second attacker raised a machete, but Valor launched forward, slamming into his arm. The blade clattered across the floor as the man screamed. Another man climbed through the smashed window. Lee Jonas swung his staff and cracked it against the intruder's knee, forcing him down. Shots fired from outside, bullets embedding into the cabin walls, splinters showering across the room. "They're trying to flush us out," Jonas shouted. Logan moved to the opposite window, ducked low, and fired 2 beanbag rounds to suppress the advancing group. The attackers scattered briefly, regrouping behind trees. Valor's growl vibrated through the floor. Then Logan saw it. More men coming from the left side of the cabin, 6 of them, coordinated, disciplined, too organized for simple thugs. "They've trained," Logan muttered. Thunder rolled, and then a new sound, a deep metallic thud, came from behind the cabin. "Back door!" Logan shouted. Jonas spun around, but Logan was already sprinting down the hallway. The back door blew inward as 2 syndicate soldiers forced their way in, rifles raised. Logan ducked behind a supporting beam as gunfire shredded the wooden frame around him. He moved swiftly, sweeping the leg of the nearest attacker, then slamming the rifle out of his grip with a forearm strike. The second attacker aimed for Logan's head, but Logan twisted and drove his elbow into the man's chin, sending him sprawling. Valor raced down the hall, teeth bared, tackling another intruder, trying to slip inside behind them. The shepherd's snarl echoed like thunder. The attackers began to retreat outside to regroup, and that was when Logan realized something chilling. They weren't trying to kill him. They were trying to corner him. A final push was coming. Jonas grabbed Logan's arm. "Look!" Through the broken front doorway, through the sheets of pounding rain, a tall figure approached with deliberate, heavy steps. He walked calmly, almost leisurely, despite the chaos around him. Lightning flashed again, and Logan saw him clearly for the first time. Harris Wolfe, a wall of a man, 6'3", built like a forged slab of iron. His blonde hair was cropped close, his jaw thick and square, covered with a trim beard the color of dirty wheat. His shoulders were massive beneath a soaked black tactical jacket, the muscles in his arms bulging as if sculpted by violence itself. His eyes, cold, pale, predatory blue, held no fear, no hesitation. Only calculation? He carried a revolver polished to a mirror shine, completely unaffected by the storm raging around him. Two more lightning flashes cut through the sky, and in those split seconds, Logan saw Wolf smirk. The attackers parted beside him like obedient soldiers. Wolf stepped onto the porch and lifted his chin. "Logan!" he shouted through the storm, voice booming like it commanded the weather. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Logan stood in the doorway, chest rising and falling steadily. Valor growled at his side, teeth glimmering. Wolf raised his revolver casually. "I'll make this simple." His voice lowered, turning into something venomous. "If you're still standing on this property come sunrise, you and that dog of yours will die here." Jonas stiffened behind Logan, but Logan didn't flinch. He held Wolf's gaze, his voice calm and razor sharp. "Then I'll see you at sunrise." Wolf's smirk widened, revealing a row of teeth too clean for a man this violent. He spoke softly. Yeah, but the words cut through the storm like a blade. "You won't survive the night." With a twist of his wrist, Wolf motioned to his soldiers, and just like that, the syndicate retreated, vanishing again into the darkness and rain, leaving the cabin battered but standing. Leaving Logan with a promise. A war was coming, and now it had a face. The storm from the night before had left Clearwater wrapped in a cold mist, the air heavy with the scent of rain and pine. The cabin's walls still bore the scars of the attack, splintered wood, bullet fragments embedded deep in the frame, muddy boot prints in the soil outside. But the river was quiet, deceptively so, its silvery surface gliding forward as if it knew nothing of the violence that had stained its banks. Logan stood on the porch, hands braced on the railing, staring at that river like a man preparing for a war only he understood. Valor sat beside him, tall and alert, his ears forward and his amber eyes fixed on the tree line, where darkness had once poured syndicate soldiers into their home. Logan's body still ached from the battle, the bruise along his ribs, the strained muscles in his forearm, but pain to a SEAL was merely informational, not limiting. He breathed it in and let it slip behind him. He had bigger things to face. Jonas stepped onto the porch holding 2 mugs of steaming coffee. His long gray beard still carried a few flecks of sawdust from repairing the front door. "You didn't sleep," Jonas said. "Couldn't," Logan replied. "You thinking about Wolf?" "No," Logan said, though the lie sat too easily on his tongue. "Thinking about timing." Jonas narrowed his eyes. "Timing for what?" Logan finally turned toward him. "For calling reinforcements." Jonas blinked, surprised. "You have people you trust enough to bring into this?" "I do," Logan said, pulling out a satellite phone he'd kept hidden since leaving the Navy. "And they come prepared." 2 hours later, the soft rumble of a black SUV echoed through the forest road. Logan and Jonas waited near the porch steps as the vehicle stopped and 2 men emerged, men who carried themselves with unmistakable military precision. Mason Hale stepped out first. At 34, Mason was built like a steel wall, broad shoulders, thick arms, towering height just under 6'4". His dark hair was cut close, but his beard was thick and rugged, framing a square jaw. His eyes were deep-set and dark, holding the hardened calm of a man who had endured too many battles to count. A scar cut along his right temple, left over from an explosion in Syria that nearly killed him and wiped out his entire squad. Logan had been the one who dragged him out of the rubble. Mason never forgot that. The second man, Reed Jacobs, climbed out of the passenger side. He was leaner, wiry but strong, with sandy blonde hair tied loosely at the nape and piercing hazel eyes that always seemed to be calculating angles. He carried a grin, one that rarely reached full warmth, but always hinted at sharp wit. A faint shrapnel scar traced his jaw, a souvenir from a mission in Somalia. Reed was the type who moved like a ghost and fought like a storm. Mason crossed the clearing in long strides and pulled Logan into a firm, heavy handshake. "You call. We come. That's simple." Reed stepped beside them, eyeing the cabin's damaged door. "Well, damn, Logan, you redecorated?" Jonas raised an eyebrow. "These your backup?" "They're family," Logan said. Reed gave a mock salute. The dysfunctional kind, but still. Logan briefed them on the syndicate, the attack, Wolf's threat, and the river operations Jonas had uncovered. Aunt Mason's expression darkened at the mention of Wolf, while Reed crouched beside Valor, giving the shepherd a fond scratch behind the ears. "So, Reed said, standing. "What's the plan? Because I see two options. Option A, call the feds without proof and watch them ignore us. Option B, hit these bastards where it hurts." "We're doing B," Logan said, "but smartly." And so they began. The next 30 hours transformed the cabin and riverbank into a covert surveillance grid that would have made half the federal agencies jealous. Reed installed thermal cameras in the trees, small, barely visible, capable of detecting heat signatures from 200 yards away. He placed motion sensors beneath the soil, threading thin wires along roots and underbrush to ensure they wouldn't be discovered. Reed worked with an ease that came from years in reconnaissance units. His movements were fluid, precise. Mason focused on physical traps. He set up high-intensity LED flares designed to blind anyone approaching too quickly, detonation triggered by tripwires. He crafted barriers that looked like simple branches but were reinforced steel beneath. His hands, massive but dexterous, worked with surprising delicacy. Trauma had made him quiet over the years, but Logan understood his silence wasn't indifference. It was focus. Jonas helped carry equipment, guiding Reed along pathways only a lifelong riverman would know. "They use this trail most," Jonas said. "They'll come through here again." Reed nodded, placing a sensor beneath a patch of moss. "Noted." Valor followed Logan everywhere, trotting with renewed strength. His wound had healed enough that he moved without limp. Maria had returned briefly to check on him, bringing medical supplies and warning them that syndicate members had been spotted near the South Road. She stayed only long enough to confirm Valor's condition, but Logan saw something new in her eyes when she looked at him. Not just concern, but fear of losing him. He didn't know how to address it, but he felt it too. Everything would come to a breaking point soon. The next night arrived thick with a heavy fog that clung to the ground like an omen. Mason, Reed, Jonas, Logan, and Valor moved silently through the trees, settling into their observation posts. Reed monitored the thermal feed on his tablet while Mason loaded non-lethal rounds. The camera blinked. Movement, then heat signatures. Lots of them. They're coming," Reed murmured. "3 boats." Logan looked through his night vision scope. The syndicate barges glided along the water, large, flat-bottomed vessels with crates stacked beneath tarps. Men armed with rifles guarded both ends. They cut their engines, letting the current carry them silently into the cove behind Logan's property. Logan whispered, "Record everything." Reed nodded, zooming in to capture faces, crate contents, docking maneuvers, everything necessary to bury the syndicate legally. But then, the sensors beeped, hard, multiple signals. Reed's eyes widened. They knew we'd watch the water. They're coming from the trees. Logan barely had time to react before syndicate soldiers burst from the undergrowth, firing suppressed shots into the night. Mason shoved Jonas behind a boulder and fired beanbag rounds at the closest attacker. The man dropped instantly, groaning. Logan sprinted forward, Valor at his side. The shepherd hit a gunman hard enough to knock him off his feet, teeth tearing at the man's pant leg. Logan tackled another attacker, driving his elbow into the man's jaw. Reed ducked as a bullet grazed a tree trunk beside him. "They're triangulating!" "Hold the line!" Logan shouted. "We just need time!" The fight grew brutal. Logan moved like water, silent, deadly, flowing from one strike to the next. Mason fought like a tank, Reed like a ghost. Jonas swung a heavy tree branch like it was a spear. Then Logan heard Maria scream. His heart plunged. She had approached from the clinic trail, carrying medical supplies. She hadn't known the syndicate was launching a second ambush. A gunman lunged at her. Valor reacted instantly. The shepherd charged, slamming into the attacker and knocking the weapon free. He stood between Maria and the threat, snarling with a fury that shook the forest. "Valor!" Maria cried, collapsing behind a fallen log. Logan's chest tightened with raw fear, but relief surged when he saw Maria unharmed. Before the syndicate could regroup, roaring engines thundered overhead. A helicopter spotlight blazed through the fog. "Federal agents, drop your weapons!" Coast Guard boats sliced through the river, sirens wailing. Tactical teams stormed from the tree line, armed, armored, and fully briefed, thanks to Reed's uploaded evidence. Syndicate soldiers scattered, but they were trapped. Federal spotlights swept the ground, illuminating every escape route. A tall man tried to flee toward the river, but Mason tackled him, slamming him into the mud. Reed pointed toward the third boat. "That's their command vessel." Federal agents swarmed it. Within minutes, the syndicate forces were disarmed, restrained, and hauled onto Coast Guard decks. A voice crackled from the helicopter speaker. "Clearwater is secured." Logan exhaled for the first time in what felt like a lifetime. River Syndicate was finished. Clearwater River was quieter than Logan had ever heard it. The sun had barely climbed past the horizon, rising slowly over the treetops like a fragile flame reclaiming the world after a long night. Pale gold spilled across the river's surface, painting ripples of light that drifted toward the banks, where the cabin, once a battleground, now stood patched, mended, and alive again. The scars of the fight with the River Syndicate remained, but they too were softening, absorbed by the land the way the river absorbed everything. Silently, patiently, without judgment. Logan stood barefoot on the porch, a mug of black coffee warming his hands. His broad shoulders rose and fell in a slow rhythm. The steady breath of a man who had finally escaped the vice of constant danger. His dark hair was still damp from a morning shower, pushed back casually. As if for the first time in weeks, his steel-gray eyes lacked the shadow of war. They held something gentler, something he hadn't seen in himself for years. Valor lay stretched beside him, belly up, paws in the air, enjoying the rare quiet morning as if he finally believed the threat was truly gone. The big shepherd had healed remarkably, Maria's work, plus his relentless will to fight. The bandage had come off 2 days earlier, and although the fur had not grown back completely, the wound was sealed, painless. Valor shifted his head and nudged Logan's ankle with his nose. Logan smiled. "Yeah, I know. Breakfast soon." The cabin door opened behind him. Jonas stepped out slowly, holding a steaming mug in his weathered hands. His long gray beard caught the morning light, and his pale blue eyes looked clearer, freer. He wore a clean navy flannel shirt today. Maria had insisted he stop looking like a shipwreck survivor. For once, he listened. "You planning on standing there till the sun burns the river dry?" Jonas teased. "Maybe." Logan took a sip of his coffee. "Haven't seen a sunrise without expecting gunfire in a long time." "Can't blame you." Jonas rested against the porch railing. "After last night? Hell, I'm surprised you're not checking the tree line every 5 minutes." "I did," Logan admitted. "Old habits." Jonas chuckled quietly. "Yeah, old habits. But maybe now you can make new ones." The words settled into Logan's chest in a way he didn't expect. Soft, heavy, meaningful. New habits, new life. The idea felt foreign, yet possible. A car engine rumbled along the dirt road, and both men turned toward it. Logan recognized the sound instantly. Valor shot up, ears perked high. Maria's SUV. Maria stepped out wearing light jeans and a soft brown sweater. Her chestnut hair hung loose over her shoulders, slightly curled at the ends by the morning humidity. She looked different today, rested, confident, though her warm brown eyes still carried an emotion that made Logan's heartbeat soften. "Morning," she called. "Morning," Logan replied, feeling warmth creep into his voice. She approached the porch, one hand clutching a folder, the other holding a thermos. "I brought you real coffee, because I've tasted the stuff you make and you deserve better." Jonas cackled. "Told you." Logan rolled his eyes. "My coffee is fine." "No," Maria said firmly. "It's tragic." Valor barked as if agreeing. Maria knelt and ruffled his ears. "And you deserve better too, brave boy." Jonas stretched his back. "I'll take this as a sign to leave you two young people alone." "Jonas," Logan warned, but Jonas only grinned and disappeared into the cabin. Maria turned to Logan, her expression shifting gently. "How are you holding up?" He shrugged. "Slept, ate, no one shot at me. That's a good day." "That's not what I meant." Logan's eyes flicked to the river, then back to her. "I'm adjusting." Maria stepped closer. "Logan, you nearly died, more than once, and you still chose to stay and fight. People don't do that unless they have something, or someone, they're fighting for." He inhaled slowly. "I fought because someone had to." She held his gaze with a depth that tightened the air between them. "And I was scared, not because of the syndicate, but because I realized I couldn't stand the thought of losing you." The words hit him harder than any blow he'd taken in combat. Logan swallowed, jaw tightening. Maria, she shook her head gently. I'm not asking for anything. Just honesty. Just don't shut me out. Logan stepped closer, his voice low, trembling with sincerity. I'm not shutting you out. Maria exhaled a soft breath. Relief, affection, vulnerability. It softened every line of her face. Valor nudged her leg, jealous for attention. Maria laughed and buried her fingers in his fur. Logan watched her, something warm blooming quietly inside him. Maybe Jonas was right. Maybe this was a new beginning. The following week brought a wave of restoration across Clearwater. With Wolf and the syndicate arrested, thanks to Reed's video upload and federal intervention, the town finally breathed again. Neighbors returned to homes they had abandoned in fear. Families reopened shops. The river's silence no longer felt sinister. And they didn't forget who had fought for them. Logan returned from a supply run one afternoon to find townspeople repairing his cabin, hammering, repainting, replacing broken boards. One man, a retired carpenter, saluted him awkwardly. "Least we can do," he said. "You saved all of us." Jonas received even better news. The state reinstated his boating license after the investigation proved the syndicate had destroyed his vessel. When the official handed Jonas the certificate, the old veteran's eyes glistened. "About damn time," he muttered, but his voice cracked. That night, the town held a small gathering at the riverbank. Nothing formal, just music, food, and laughter under the open sky. Maria stayed at Logan's side most of the evening, valor soaked in attention from children who adored him. But the real moment came the next morning. A group of uniformed officers arrived near the cabin, accompanied by Captain Rachel Porter, the same woman who coordinated the syndicate arrests. She was tall, with a firm posture and sharp gray eyes. Her black hair was tied tightly in a bun. She stepped toward Logan and Valor with the controlled grace of someone who embodied discipline. "Logan," she greeted, "glad to see you in one piece." "Likewise," he replied. Porter held a small metal box in her gloved hands. "We don't usually do field presentations," she said. But in light of circumstances and the fact that this particular recipient has 4 legs, the governor approved it." Logan crouched beside Valor. Porter smiled and opened the box, revealing a bronze medallion engraved with a K9 silhouette and the words, "National Service Animal Bravery Award for extraordinary courage in the protection of life," she read. Reed and Mason, who had stayed a few more days to help rebuild, stood nearby, grinning proudly. Logan gently held Valor's collar as Porter placed the medal around the dog's neck. The shepherd lifted his head tall, tail wagging slowly, as if understanding the solemn importance of the moment. The gathered townspeople applauded. Maria wiped a tear. "He deserves it," she whispered. Logan leaned down, arms wrapping around Valor's neck. His voice broke in a rare moment of emotional vulnerability. "We're finally home, buddy." Valor licked his chin, sealing the moment. Months passed, snow melted, spring warmed the riverbanks, Clearwater healed, and Logan began building something new. With help from Mason, Reed, Jonas, Maria, and the town council, he acquired a patch of land near the river and turned it into something meaningful, something born from pain but built for hope, a sanctuary, a training center for veterans and service dogs, a place where trauma met understanding, where loneliness met companionship, where healing wasn't just possible, it was natural. He named it Valor Haven. On opening day, sunlight flooded the front yard, shimmering off the river like a blessing. The center's main building, modern but warm, that made of wood and glass, gleamed beneath the clear sky. Veterans from surrounding towns arrived, some hesitant, others hopeful. Dogs of all sizes barked playfully in the training yards. Maria stood beside Logan, wearing a navy dress with her hair braided neatly. She looked proud, radiant, grounded. "You did this," she said softly. "No," Logan replied. "We did." She slipped her hand into his. Valor trotted ahead of them, metal shining in the light, tail high. The river, once a vessel of danger, now sparkled peacefully, like a long exhale after years of holding its breath. Logan looked at the people gathering, the dogs playing, and the rising sun glinting off Valor Haven's sign. For the first time in his life, he felt something he had never truly known, even during his years in uniform: belonging, purpose, a future. And as the dawn washed over Clearwater, Logan whispered what he finally understood: "This is home." Sometimes miracles don't arrive with thunder or blinding light. Sometimes they come quietly, through the loyalty of a dog who refuses to give up, through the courage of a man who chooses to stand for what's right, and through a community that remembers how to hope again. Logan thought war had taken everything from him, but life has a way of returning blessings in unexpected forms: a peaceful sunrise after years of storms, a second chance at love, a home rebuilt from brokenness, and the reminder that even the smallest act of courage can change an entire town. And maybe that's the message for all of us. We may not fight cartels in the darkness or stand against armed men on a riverbank, but every day, in our own lives, we face battles no one else sees: fear, loneliness, loss, moments when we feel the world pressing us down. Yet hope, like the river in Clearwater, keeps flowing, and miracles still happen for those who dare to hold on just a little longer. If Logan and Valor could rise again after everything they endured, then so can you. So as you finish this story, may you remember this: courage is contagious, kindness is a miracle, and no darkness lasts forever when we choose to stand in the light. If this story touched your heart, please help it reach others. Share this video. Leave a comment about what part moved you the most. Like the video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. And may God bless every single person watching. May He guard your home, heal your heart, guide your steps, and send you the miracles you've been waiting for. Amen.